my gosh, hi guys. Fancy seeing you here. Oh, I am very excited to play. I've been playing off stream like normal, but then I haven't been able to progress because I wanted to unlock the biomes with you guys. Hi Kat. Thank you for redeeming your gold coin, by the way, and yay, the auto shout out worked. How am I today? I'm doing good. I've been quite productive actually. I did some revision, I did some editing. I even went to the shop and got bread. And I hate leaving the house, even if it's just to go across the road, but I did it. Yay. I got bread now, so I can have some sandwiches and like egg on toast in the morning. Although my breakfast this morning was amazing. I had cheesecake with whipped cream. You saw on my Twitter the productiveness. Oh my gosh, I've been posting so much on Twitter. People are probably sick of seeing me like constantly on their feed. It's because I've not had Twitter before. I explained this to you already, Kat. I never had Twitter before, so I was just like, when I got it, it became like a new toy that I use a lot. But yeah, just a low maintenance stream. Like, look at my face. I did not do much with my face. I tried to cover up some of my blotchiness, but it's whatever. We're here to chill. It's 9 p.m. on a Monday. No one's gonna be looking amazing. But yeah, I'm just acting as if I don't have my finals starting on Friday. Just pretend that's not happening. He looks slay anyways. Thank you. I do like to not like full on dress up, but I do like to make a bit of an effort when I stream, you know. But sometimes I'm too tired. And I was already running late, so I was like, I'm just gonna quickly just put some stuff on and then go. Hi, Mr. Scope. I always feel really bad saying people's names. I'm gonna say it wrong. Just wanted to pop in and say hi. Can't say, oh, that's okay. Thanks for stopping by. It's good to see you. And good luck with the rest of your shift. But yeah, I'm just gonna... Oh, look at Kat being a great mod. I think I updated my mod, so you should be a mod on here as well. Oh, there's an ad break, but you have sub, so you will still hear me, Kat. But yeah, I made you mod on here as well as on TikTok because you just do such a great job. If you don't want to be mod, do let me know. I can change it for you, but I trust you. Yeah, I feel bad. Wait, I can't spell. I just feel appreciate. There you go. Ad hell is taking over. Oh, I'm so... I don't know how to control ads still. I know that there's like an option on like actual Twitch, but I never have that open. Okay, how do I want to change the color of my thing to be one color, please. There we go. You're now blessed. Oh my gosh, hi Mochi. Do you want to be called Mochi, or is there something specific you want me to call you, by the way? But it's good to see you. Hello. Wait, I'm just gonna move this slightly. No. Oh, okay. Hi, welcome. Up to you. You can call me Mochi or Mochi Bear. Okay, cool. I love both Mochis and Bears, so I love your name. Sorry, I meant now blessed. I know. It's good to see you. Thank you. Okay, what else has been going on recently? I mean, what did I do on the weekend? The weekend felt like it went really fast. I think I was really busy, that's why. Like, Friday I had a doctor's appointment and I had to travel all the way to my uni because there's like a doctor's place at my uni and it takes like 2 buses to get there, so it takes like almost an hour to get to uni, which is crazy. It's crazy. I live in the same area. Like, I live in the same town. I was about to say what town it was for a second. I'm about to dox myself. But I live in the same town as my uni, but it's like still like an hour or 40 minutes like to get to uni, which is crazy. But that's besides the point. I was just super busy on that day. I actually went out and touched grass, as you probably saw on my Twitter. You seem stressful. I don't know how you do it. Honestly, I don't know either. You're doing good. That's good to hear. Oh my gosh, my brain's actually gone by me. Like, I forget to ask things. But yeah, I was just super busy. And then Saturday I had first aid training, which you probably also saw on my Twitter because I put everything on there. But I passed, so that was fun. But I spent like 6 hours in a small room with people I don't really know, and it was a bit nerve-wracking, but I passed. And then I went and had a meal with my boyfriend. We had went to Bill's. Does anyone know what Bill's is? It's like a restaurant. They do all sorts of food. And then what did I do when I got home? I think I had a nap. I can't lie. I slept for like 3 hours. And then I just chilled. And then yesterday, what did I do? I made some content. I edited and I did some work, I guess. So that's the rundown of the weekend. Okay, let me catch up with this. You're doing great as well. Yay. You every time enter. Yes, that is literally me. Congrats on passing. Thank you. Yes, so I work with kids. If you guys didn't know, I work in a nursery, so I need to be first aid trained. And it was my first ever time getting first aid trained, actually. Like, since I think I did like some first aid training when I was used to do like guides and brownies, which is just like Girl Scouts basically, but not Girl Scouts. I don't know what the American equivalent is. But this was more full on. Like, there was the CPR section obviously, but then we had to do about like choking and bandaging. First aid training sessions are funny but also scary. It was really fun, actually. Like, it was a good bonding experience for me and my colleagues, because there was like 5 of us from the same nursery, and then there was like 4 other ladies from different nurseries and different things. But it was really nice bonding experience. Like, I was in a group of 3 with 2 other girls from my nursery, and they were really nice, and it was really funny. But it is scary, because thinking about potentially if someone's like on the verge of death, I have to step in. Like, I'm obliged to, because I have first aid training now. It's like scary to think about that I'm gonna be responsible. But I passed, so that's all that matters. Anywho, today I want to unlock some new biomes in DDV. I want to be able to, like, I have a few quests that I need to unlock a biome for to continue with. I hope you don't ever have to practice first aid. Scary situation. Yeah, I hope not either. But you know, I do work in a nursery. Like, even if I don't have to do CPR, I might have to like bandage up someone real, like, who's bleeding or something. Anyways, let's get started. So, quests. All these quests I want to do, but majority of them I like need to unlock Wally for. So I'm guessing he'll be the next one to unlock, but I don't know how to unlock him. If anyone knows how to, then let me know. Oh my gosh, hi Mel! It's good to see you! It's been a while! How am I? I'm doing great, how are you? You said Wally? Wally? Wally. Eva. I haven't been in a long time. I know, Mel. How you been? Hi Mel, welcome. He has his own door. Oh, am I allowed to just go through doors, or do I have to do it as a quest? Because I need to get Wally, Moana, Wally, Moana, Elsa. Elsa, I know I have to unlock the other biome, the frosted biome. But yeah, Maui. Don't know. But I do know that the one that most need is the Sunlit Plateau. I don't know how to say that word. You can do them on your own time, but pay Dreamlight to open the doors. I have so much Dreamlight. I I mean, I think that's a lot. I don't know how much it costs to open the doors. Wally is the best robo boy ever. For real. So cute. I can't wait to have him in the valley. And his like house is so cool. It's like the thing he lives in the movie. I'm just thinking about where I'm gonna put that though, because it looked quite big when I visited Evie's valley. Yeah, most characters that don't come from quests come from doors. Oh, okay, okay. That's a lot. Is it a lot? Okay. This is a lot. Ooh, can't wait. Okay, we'll get Wally and we'll get the sunlit place as well. Oh my god. Why does the sky look nice at night for once? Does it always look like this? Because I never play at nighttime. I always offset my time to what's it called? Be like a few hours ahead or behind. You know nothing about this game, but you love it. That is good. I'm glad you like it. The grind for Dreamlight can be so hard. The fact that you have so... I know, but it's also because I don't spend it on anything. But most of the time I spend doing like mining and foraging when I'm not streaming. That's the thing. Like I don't really progress much. Because I don't want to progress too much off stream. You want to spend it on doors and open the map up. Yeah, I'm gonna go and open up a bit of the biome, but I can see that my stream is lagging a bit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Ash. Hi, Lip. Yay. The auto shoutouts are working. VIP, hello. Yes. I saw I was VIP on yours and I was like, that's a thing. So then I went and put you as VIP. What's happening? Oh, my dad's joined. Wait, if he actually types in the chat something, it will do like an auto message. Oh. Okay. Well, thank you for redeeming your Lady Gold coin, and I love you too. I want my dad to type something in chat. Wait, let me just message him. In fact, he joined after I added like a new command when he types. Type something. It's quite funny what I put. Officially made it in the live with VIP and Kim stream. See, I was gonna make you VIP as well, Kat, but you can only be VIP or moderator. And I just thought you wanted to be moderator anyways because you moderate my TikTok streams, so and you do it very well. Yeah, I don't know if the night sky is that's for me. I don't know if that's how it always looks. Is that how it always looks? I never play at night. I always change the time. Also, what do we think of my outfit? I made this last night. So cute, right? Because I got the backpack from the Star Path. Because I was thinking of actually doing the Star Path this time and like unlocking the premium. But I don't think I'm going to unlock it on my PC. I'll unlock it on the Switch. Because on the Switch I have 10k Moonstone. It's because when you rebuy the same... Like when you rebuy the game, it gives you another thingy. You're stuck on 27... on the set, blah, blah, blah. You're still stuck on the 27k Dreamlight. You can open a lot of doors. Only thing I recommend for biomes, leave Forgotten Lands for Lost. For story purposes. I'm guessing that's where the Forgotten lives then. I've seen my friend's biome and I actually saw the what's it called? The Forgotten. And I was like, that's a spoiler! Don't show me that! And I had to run away. Is your bitrate sorted out? Oh, is it not sorted out? I forgot that's what I was looking at. Because so much was happening. How do I sort that out? Is it still lagging? Is it lagging? I can't tell. Is it lagging? Maybe a little bit. The outfit is cute. Thank you. Oh, it is still slightly lagging. Oh. I have no idea how to fix anything. What does the bitrate mean, and how does one change that? It looks green on my OBS. That's the problem. Oh, the story is so good and so worth. I love it. I love that there's a story to this as well as everything else. What was I gonna say? I'm gonna unlock this area because I want to do more, like unlock more of these quests that I've done. Because I already grinded like majority of the characters to be the certain level they need to be to continue with the quests. But these are friendship quests, I know. The story quests I've been kind of delaying because I don't want to finish the story, and I also don't want to like decorate my valley until I've like unlocked majority, like these two at least, and then if I leave this for last, because then I'll have more space. Make sure your game settings aren't too overpowered and your bitrate should be at the bottom right. My bitrate is green, and I can turn down the settings for sure. It's on ultra, so let's just put it on. Why is it high, very high, ultra? Like, let's just put it on high. Why does it need to be ultra? I don't know if that. Oh, is that fine? Any extra tabs or apps you might want to have may have open, not in use. I literally just closed down because I had like Valorant's Vanguard open, and I don't know if that lags it out. But I do only have Mix It Up open and Spotify open, which I should probably start playing some music because I can just hear silence and it's just like my brain. I don't know what vibe we want. I've been obsessed with this song at the moment. Not this version though. This one. Chrome does use quite a bit of CPU. My Chrome is not open. Lag is gone. Is it gone? A little bit. When I actually start running around though. Is it gone? I don't know. Is this right? I don't know what. I have not touched any of these settings before. Okay, I don't know if I want to work during the night, so I might like turn the time to be sunset time. It looks like it on mine. I don't know. Help, it's slightly back. I gotta cry. You know what? Should we just like not have Spotify then? And what else can I close? When the camera pans, it lags slightly, but much better. Okay, and then you know what? We're gonna just turn on the music in the game. Oh, it's so loud. Yeah, because I never have the music on in the game. Oh, that's so loud now. Please. Okay, when I leave the settings, it gets louder. Yay! Wait, actually, I need to see who I need to level up still. I think I was working on Daisy. She's level 4 now, so I need to progress more with Mickey, but I can't progress with Mickey until we unlock the Sunlit biome, and then I need to do Stitch and Remy. I want to do Remy. I think I was doing Remy. Is it still lagging? It looks laggy on my screen. I hate when this happens. Maybe I should have like restarted my laptop before streaming. Oh, Remy's sleeping? That's so sad. Okay, I guess we can't do Remy then. Let's do Stitch. Aloha. It's still lagging, but much better. Okay. Just let me know if it gets worse and I'll try and do something. God knows what, because I don't know anything about anything. Oh, I know. Maybe I need to turn on my fan for my laptop. Maybe it's getting too warm. I'm just checking on my phone if it's like bad lag. Okay. Oh, is it running better now? I think maybe because my fan wasn't on. It was getting hot. Okay, so what I like to do when I first log in is clear up the valley a bit, go through foraging and stuff, and then get on with what I wanted to do. So the first like half an hour of the stream, I don't know how long it will take me to go through every bio. Oh, no. Maybe like the first half an hour or something of this stream is me just gonna be digging and pulling out stuff and mining, because that's what I like to do. Is it running better? I think it's running better. Maybe I can play Spotify now because I like the in-game music, but I also am just like, I want to listen to my own music. And I also figured out how to like separate sound files so that I don't get copyrighted. Oh, no, hurry up. I need to collect the coins. Go away, Stitch. Ah! Nah, there's no way. There's no way. No, no, no. Where's the other one? No! I didn't do it. Okay, that's fine. Fine. I also like doing this first because then I like to go into the shop and see if there's anything for me to get. And then I think I need to do Daisy's challenge, but the thing is I did it at like 5 a.m. last night, like this morning, because I did it before I slept. And so I don't think it's refreshed yet, because it takes like 24 hours to refresh. Yeah. I love the outfit. I got the backpack and I was like, thank you for the luck. Appreciate you. I got the backpack from the Star Path and I was like, it's cute. And then this top is also from Toy Story. And then the ears are from Monsters Inc. And then the shoes are like Mickey shoes. So cute, right? And it's like got a skirt on, so it's like summer. Also, guys, I bought Mickey's magician like outfit. It was 2,500 moonstone. Tell me why I thought that was an okay thing to spend my money on. Now, I could have like got the premium. Hi Dawson, welcome in. I could have bought the premium for like the same amount that I got the outfit for. This is the outfit, right? Also, this is in the store now. I don't really know if I want to get that. I wanted to get these things as well, but I also don't know where I'm meant to put this in my valley. Because at the moment, the Star Path is about thrills and whatever. Like, make your own Disneyland. But, like, how am I meant to do that when I have no space in my valley? Also, I don't know if I even want premium. Because what are some of these items? Like, I would not wear that. I'm so sorry. Although, you get a lot of moonstone back if you do get the premium. So, it's like, do I risk it? Also, look how cute Minnie looks in this. I need to get this. I need to grind it. And to grind it, we need to do these things. And you can do more duties if you buy the premium. But I'm still debating. So maybe by the end of the stream, we can decide whether I'm going to buy the premium or not. I'm going to sneeze. If we buy the premium or not. Because I will do that on the Switch. Because I have a bit more moonstone on the Switch than I do on here. Anyways, because my thing's not lagging, I'm going to turn off that and open my music. Okay, let's get up. I'm gonna find the playlist. This one. This is such a cute little lo-fi playlist, and it was just such nice vibes. Thank you, Kat. Oh my gosh, I closed my windows now because last night when I was playing with my friends, a massive moth flew in from underneath my curtain. And I was terrified. And then I was already terrified because it like flew into my room. and then I was just gonna leave it because my boyfriend's not here to get it out, and I was not about to fight it, you know. But then my friend was like, "Yeah, you need to get rid of that because it might lay its eggs. Like if you find it and it's dead, then it's laid its eggs." And I hydrate, okay. Thank you. And then she was like, "It lays its eggs. If it's dead, it's laid its eggs." And I was like, back right off. Like, I'm not having moth babies in my closet or in my room. Like, imagine you wake up and there's just moth babies all around you in your room. My room's not big enough for that, and I don't think anyone wants that in the room. No. Yeah, I ended up like seeing it go in my cupboard, and I was like, nah. And then it flew out. I don't think it managed to get in because there's not a big enough gap or whatever. But then I got really scared. Like, did it lay its eggs in there? Because then when I found it, it was like round the side of the cupboard. And then I was trying to like get it out of my door because it went to the other side of where my window isn't. So I was like, let me get it out the door. It could go live in the hallway for all I care. It did not want to go there. I turned the light on and it didn't even go towards the light. And then I went to like kind of swat it so it would fly, and it wasn't moving. So I was like, is it dead? Is it laying eggs? And then I kind of squished it, and well, when it moved, like when I moved it with the object I was prodding it with, there was like stuff going out of it, and I was like, is it laying eggs? Did it lay its eggs? And where are the eggs? And can I get rid of the eggs? And it really scared me. Death to moths. I try not to kill them, but like the fact it was not budging made it really hard. Because I was like, I need to get it out of my room. Yeah. Is Stitch with me? Yeah, he is. Okay. I love Stitch. He's so cute. Look at him. He kind of reminds me of myself. I can be a bit like Stitch sometimes, just really goofy, and just not speaking like speak words, just speak gibberish words, but it still makes sense. Honestly, as a child, I used to make my mom capture them. Oh my gosh, please! If my boyfriend was here, he would have been the one capturing it, but he's not here. He's at home. He went home to look after his mom. So I had to fend for myself. That's crazy. Yeah. I don't know if you guys seen on my Instagram and TikTok, I posted day 11 and 12 of the Astra's 30-day challenge, and I was really proud of the editing that I did. I spent not even that long editing it, and it was just actually quite fun. Like, it really motivated me to continue with my day when I finished editing it. And the ones on like the day 11 on TikTok, I posted it at such a weird time that I thought that it wouldn't do well, but it actually did really well. I think it did better than... Oh shit. No! I hate when this happens and it auto digs. But yeah, I thought it wasn't gonna do that well, but it did. Oh my god. Oh my god, stop. I'm just digging up the path. What is happening? Focus. But yeah, I thought it wasn't gonna do that well because I posted it at a weird time of the night. But then I think it did well, more better than the... More better, is that right grammar? It did better than the one I posted like just before I started streaming. In terms of like initial reactions. I don't know what I'm saying. It makes sense in my head. I hope it makes sense to you guys. I don't even know how much it is to open a new biome or open a new door. I hope it's not too much what Dreamlight, because I want to open a lot. But Mochi said that I had quite a lot of Dreamlight, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Also, guys, I don't know if you saw my story, but Wildcat's here as well. She posted a lovely post showing our support for Palestine, and I'm gonna be putting in like command, like auto messages, like a bot with like helpful links and stuff on how we can support Palestine. Because I don't want to be one of those people that don't utilize their platforms. You know, I have a growing platform, and I feel like, especially in this last month, my platform has grown. Hi, Assertive. It's good to see you. So I want to use my platform, and yeah, I hope that, you know, even if people don't agree, if people are being weird about my views, and you know, I don't want those people anyways. Like, I'm gonna share my views and I'm gonna share my support, and I'm doing a good thing. So, I just found a hole in my jacket. My favorite jacket. That's fine. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I put that on my Instagram story, and it is on Kat's page, ChuliCat _ I think that's your app. Of course. After you mentioned to me that you went into other streamers' stream and they were just like being weird about it, it made me realize that I should talk about it more, because I don't. And I feel kind of guilty that I don't, but I'm gonna start now. If you need any help with donation goals or widgets on OBS, I can help. Yes, I will need that. I saw the charity tip thing. I wanna do that, and maybe on my 1K celebration for TikTok or whatever, that could be something that we do, like, as well. Or I could just do like a whole stream dedicated to it. I don't know if there's like a certain day that like I need to do something like that on, but I'd be more than happy to. It's like the least I could do, honestly. April, they said I ruined their stream vibe, like, oh my god. But if the rules But in their rules, it states people in chat should talk about unprivileged people. Wait, what? What do you mean? Like, they encourage you to talk about, like, stuff like that? Or, honestly, followers don't matter, but influence does. Yes. The right people will want to listen. And, you know, I know that I'm going to be doing a right thing in what I believe and stuff. So, and it is my channel and it's my platform. So, yeah. I literally used to follow this TikToker. I really liked her Valorant content. But then she made a quite transphobic post about because there was a new agent on Valorant that came out, and they are non-binary actually. But this creator on TikTok, she made like a really it didn't seem to have nice vibes. As much as she tried to play it off, she was being transphobic or like, just, you know what I mean. And I just immediately unfollowed. Because I don't want that kind of thing around me. Yeah, in the rules it says hold me accountable and learn about unprivileged people, basically. But then when I mentioned Palestine in their chat, their mod removed my message and said The vibe was ruined. That's so weird. Why would you put that in your rules to like encourage people and then make it such a scene? That's so weird. They clearly do not want to learn. Transphobic is transphobic is so silly. Yeah, I don't understand. It's not harming you. Just let people be who they want to be. 48? I collected 48. That's crazy. Ballot. Okay. I joined bike and 5 minutes later and she was still yapping about it. That's so funny. I mean, you must have made a impact. At least they were talking about it, even if she was saying horrible stuff. The topic is there, and the right, like, people in the chat will decide and judge. Also, do you sell resources in this game? Yes, you do. So I just sold a bunch and I got money. And that's why I collect things like when I first load in so that I can see the store and not have to worry about how much money I have. So yeah, this is where you sell it. You sell it to Goofy and he has a store, and then Scrooge Duck, I don't know what his name is. He has a store as well. Hello, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Yeah, so there's a shop up here and you can go in and you can spend the coins you get from foraging and stuff in this store. Let me show you. So here, there's like cute things like clothes you can get. What is this? Oh, this one, Wreck-It Ralph. It's cute, but I don't really like the color. And you can also get furniture, so this is for your house. And with the furniture and clothes and stuff, you can use those for like the dream snaps, which is like, let me just show you. Thank you for welcoming people in. Dream snaps. So here, the current challenge is hats playful, and I made a submission. I don't really know how to do it, but you can also vote for people, and you get like moonstone from this. This one is so cool. Mine never looked this cool. I like the daisies in it. They look very similar, these two. Oh my gosh, she has the turtle. Is that the turtle? Is that a snake? You can have a snake as a pet? That's so cool. Okay, I've claimed 50 out of 50 now. And then you also get like, you can win stuff from it as well. Gonna need to loan money to afford that. Oh my god. To afford the game? Yeah, and then these cute accessory things for your house. And then also accessories for your character. So gloves, glasses, shoes, and you could also get hair, jewelry, socks, literally anything. Oh, the outfits. Yeah, you literally just grind, and sell. The thing is, you have to make sure you don't sell things that you need for quests, because I've done that. I like racked up like 99 coal for a quest and then accidentally sold it. And I was screaming. Because why? Okay. For now, I only have 4 biomes, and it really takes me so long to go through each biome. But when I get another biome, it's gonna take me even longer to do this to every biome before I even do anything like fun. I mean, this is fun. It's just relaxing, isn't it? You delete the game. Honestly, I almost rage quit. Luckily, it's not too hard to rack up coal. I just realized I completely forgot to eat before I streamed, so I'm starting to feel hungry. Because I went to the shop and I was gonna buy a samosa and just eat that, but they didn't have any for some reason, and then I just completely forgot what I was doing, and now I'm a bit hungry, but it's okay. At least when I finish streaming, no one will be in the kitchen, because I hate going in the kitchen and cooking when there's people there. Especially I have like low-key beef with one of my flatmates. But I'm thinking maybe some spicy ramen tonight would be a good one. Although I fancy spicy ramen all the time, and if I eat it every day, it'll actually just burn a hole through my stomach. Because when I first found these ramen, this ramen brand, I genuinely ate the 2-time one, 2-time spice, like twice in one day, and I felt so ill from it. Oh, we're taking a little ad break, guys. Make sure to go grab your water, go to the toilet. You should totally take a break and get something to eat. Also, what did your family do? Oh my god. I have snacks anyways if I do get too hungry. But I feel like I just ate something. What did I eat? I can taste food in my mouth, but I don't remember what I ate. Oh my gosh, hi Tetra! Oh my gosh, it's been such a long time. How are you? You almost died eating that? Oh, the bulldog, the samyang. And what did my flatmate do? I don't really want to. I don't know. Let's just say he's scary. Because I live in like postgraduate and so some of them are a bit older than me. That's good to hear that you're doing well. I don't know if Tetra's in an ad right now, but I hope he is well, and I am also doing well. Tetra is one of like my OG viewers from like Valorant days. You put the whole spice packet and you almost died. No, for real. The first time I put the whole spice packet, I knew that I probably would never do that again. I always put like half in and I always put milk. You're not in the ads, don't worry. Okay. That's fine. Yes, I am doing well. Do you still stream, Petra? I feel like my throat is like blocked or something. I think I've got like a cold. Not a cold, but like I don't know what to call it. Not allergies either, but I'm just very phlegmy. That's kind of gross to say. Oh, I found I unintentionally found something for a quest that I wasn't doing. I need to find one more thing because I think I have the other one in my house. I only started again recently as you got a new PC not long ago. That's incredible. I really, I'm due a PC upgrade as well, too fair. But I'm glad you got back into it. Um, I'll try and keep an eye out for when you do stream. I feel like I've been very offline. When I'm offline, I'm only really posting stuff on TikTok and Instagram, but I do try and drop by streams when I can. When I'm revising and stuff, just put it on in the background, you know? Do a little lurky lurk. Yeah, that's really good to hear that you're still streaming. Oh my gosh, there's 2 moonstone chests next to each other? Hello? Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. 103 moonstone. You don't have a schedule, so don't worry if I can't. That's fine. I don't have a schedule either. I just kind of, at the moment at least, because I have exams. But if I do see you live, I'll be sure to say hi. It's been a while since I caught a stream of yours. Yeah, I've not really been streaming as much either. Like, I had a little break and trying to get into, like, the flow of things now that I have exams going on. So, it's honestly fine. Like, it's probably because I just haven't been live. But I've been playing a lot of this game, Disney Dreamlight Valley, and so it kind of motivates me to stream because I want to share like milestones in this game with you guys. And I'm gonna play the game anyways, so I might as well just stream it. Because I wasn't gonna revise right now, I was just gonna chill and stuff there. Honestly, when I streamed, I used to wing schedule. The same. I've made a few schedules and never really stuck to them because it's really hard. Like, especially my uni timetable just changes all the time. But when summer comes, I'll have more of a solid like work schedule because I won't have uni, and then I'll be able to plan ahead. And I have lots of plans of what I want to do during the summer. Ah, why can't I? Okay. My Spotify was just really quiet. I like couldn't even hear it. I was like, is anything even playing? But yeah, I really want to do more in the summer. I have lots of plans in my head of what I want to do. And really pushing to reach some of my goals because then I can progress and do stuff I want to do. Yeah, honestly, it depends on how I feel before I go live. Yeah, that is true. That is the same for everyone. Make sure you don't push yourself if you are tired or burnt out. It's okay to not stream for one of those days that you were meant to or whatever. Like yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna stream, but then I just didn't finish editing until really late, and I was like, okay, maybe I won't stream. Because it was so late, I was like, I doubt any of my regulars will be awake, and if they are, I don't think I'm awake anyway, so, like, my brain was not working. I did just realize though, like when I go live, no, when I upload my VOD to YouTube, it's not gonna have any background music. So it's gonna be like silence. Yay! Okay, Stitch is level 5 now. Oh, okay. Oh my god, this is such a cute hat. Wait. Oh, what the? Okay, I need to make a whole new outfit now, guys. I need to make a whole new outfit that goes around this hat because what the heck? This is so cute. Let's get. Oh my gosh, should I have this backpack? No, it doesn't really go. Maybe this one, yeah. Or even the Remy backpack. No, this one. Or even some wings. That's too much. I suggest using non-copyright sound. That's what I do for my voice. To be fair, the playlist I'm listening to right now is non-copyright, but I've like changed my OBS like output audio mix or whatever. So that it doesn't even go to my VODs anymore. So yeah, it's fine. I've just completed a quest unintentionally. Like when I was actually trying to complete this quest, I couldn't find anything, but now I did it while I wasn't even trying to do it. I'll take it. Let's go complete the quest, and then I think we'll go and I think we just need to go to the Forest of Valor, and then we're gonna get the new biome. I just saw your message, Kat. That is so weird. That is so weird that they reacted that way with those type of rules. Girl boss too hard? Yeah. Okay, looks like the memory wasn't pointing us to the treasure, but to the pieces of some kind of map. Okay, so we don't even have the treasure yet. We have a map, and then I'm guessing we're gonna have to go find the treasure from the map. Or not. What the heck? Was that it? There's no treasure? Hello? I need to get him to level 10. Okay, bye, Stitch. Goodbye, Stitch. It's been fun hanging out. Thank you for the hat. I need to hang out with Scrooge now because we need to get him to level 10. Let's talk to him first. I'm Scrooge McDuck. I made my fortune being tougher than the toughies and smarter than smarties. How tough are the toughies? How smart were the smarties? Never heard of you? That's so... That's so cold. Oh, you can't even see it. Wait. I don't know if that's too small, but it's gonna go up here. Okay. How smart were the Smarties? Because I like Smarties. Oh, they were the smartest, cunning foxes and ruthless entrepreneurs. Is out-ruthed a word? I don't know. What does he want today? Oh, I have Topaz. Ah, it's not here. Okay, let's just hang out, and I will take you, and we will get some Topaz. Do you plan on building a PC with the goal? With the goal, I really want to get a new mic and a new webcam. Those are the initial two things that I want to get. I do eventually want to build a PC, but because of my living situation, I can't do that right now, and I don't think I will be able to do it in my new flat either. But if we do reach this goal, and then I can do like the smaller updates, because my camera quality is not as good as I want it to be, so I was gonna look into getting a new one. And then my mic is gonna be like a year old, and there's a few new Fifine mics that I've been looking at. But oh my gosh, hi Pinky! Oh my gosh, Pinky! Cat, can we get a shout out please for Pinky L? Oh my gosh, hi, welcome Raiders. Hi, I'm Kim. It's good to meet you all. I'm just playing some Disney Dreamlight Valley, and we're gonna unlock a new biome today to complete some of the other quests. I have like a bunch of friendship quests racked up right now because I haven't got the biome. But thank you so much for the raid. I hope your stream was well. What were you streaming? How am I? I'm doing well. I've just got exams going on at the moment, so I'm just chilling on do like quite a chill stream tonight. Yeah. How are you though? How was stream? How was everything? What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was getting Topaz. Thank you for giving the shout out. Topaz? I want one Topaz for Scrooge McDuck. You play some Valorant? but cozy. Love that. I play Valorant as well, but I'm never cozy when I play Valorant. I'm always screaming or raging. That's fun. I've never played this before, but it looks so cozy. It is so cozy. You just run around and you can like do some collecting of items and you can hang out with Disney characters. I don't know if you like Disney, but I quite like Disney. Like, look at my AirPods case. It's literally Stitch, and I'm wearing a Stitch hat right now. But yeah, it is very cozy. I actually started streaming with Valorant, and then I've kind of eased my way into cozy games. But streaming Valorant, but cozy, that I don't think I can do that. So I get too angry. You love Disney so much. That is great. That is great. This game is honestly perfect for like anyone who loves good Disney, like any Disney content. I just hang out with Disney characters. Um, I don't have that many Disney characters yet, but these are all the ones that you can get. So from the main game, there's a DLC. That's why I'm saying from the main game. There's like two separate things. So there's a DLC, but I haven't done anything for the DLC yet. But these are all the characters you can get. And the ones I have are like the ones that you can see like in color. So I have all of Mickey and his friends. Daisy just came into the game and she's the cutest. When it's FPS games, there's no being cozy, it's chaos. I have seen people play it cozy, and I bet if I rewatch your VOD, Pinky, it'll be such cozy vibes. But I just know myself. I'm always screaming at that game. Especially if I play ranked with my friends, like comp, it's just like not fun. Mush, hi Sleepy. Thank you for redeeming your daily gold coin. You have 8 now? That's crazy. How are you doing? What was I doing? Oh yeah, I want to check what level Scrooge is at. Oh, he's on level 8, so we need to level him up 2 times. And then we can continue with his quests. Welcome Titan, thank you for redeeming. You refuse to play comp? That's probably a good idea. That's probably why you can do it cozy, because you're not playing comp. But you know, I also refused for a long time, but a lot of my friends play comp, so I kind of got dragged into it, and it gets addictive and annoying. But I only really play comp because my friends want to, and then we both rage, but I rage way more than she does. You almost forgot to redeem your gold coin, or yeah. You need to make dinner? Okay, go make dinner. But yeah, if you play comp, then you're probably gonna end up raging a lot in the game. You just cannot do it. The teammates are hell. Oh, that is so true. I literally would never solo comp. It's just too much agony. And even though sometimes, like, I do play with friends, you still meet, like, the worst teammates. Like, they're either toxic or throw or just... I don't even know. They're just not the one. But if you play, like, a Swift play or an unrated or a Spike Crush, basically any of the other modes, it's just more chill and you don't really need to try hard and you don't really need to care about your teammates. But, you know, you still find the odd toxic person in Swift plays. It's just, yeah. Oh my gosh, another Moonstone chest? We are really getting blessed today. It's our 3rd Moonstone chest today. We had 2 in the on the beach next to each other. Oh, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. Welcome to the fam. By the way, guys, if you were wondering why I don't, like, say who's followed, I kept seeing stuff about how some people just don't like to be called out, and I absolutely respect that. But see, look, now you have messaged and now I'll say, hello, Pushing Positivity. I love that name. I hope that you spread a lot of positivity, and I hope that I can spread lots of positivity too. I'm doing great, thank you. I hope you are well. Yeah, some people don't like to be shouted out, and that's why I won't say their name unless they do type in chat. I have put that I'm lurker friendly, so you know, lurk all you want. um, thank you for the follow, appreciate you. You try your best. Well, that's all anyone can ask of you, and that's all you can do. Just try your best. I don't have that many cocoa beans, so I'm gonna keep those. Actually, I don't even know how many mushrooms I have. I don't have that many sunflowers. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing well. I don't know. Every time someone asks me this question, I just think about how I have exams going on at the moment. So I'm just like, eh. You're gonna lurk, enjoy your stream. Thank you for the lurk. I appreciate the raid. Thank you so much again. Thank you for choosing me. Go rest up, of course. Get some water. But yeah. Okay. Do I need mushrooms? I don't really need mushrooms. Thing is, I don't remember my inventory like at home in my house. I'm gonna sell these. I'm gonna sell these. I'm gonna sell that. That. Okay. Let's see in my chest if that's okay. If I need to sell anything else. I have mushrooms. Oh, I don't have that many. I enjoy watching Disney Dreamlight a lot. It's my favorite game. Oh my gosh, yes. Good job I'm playing that today. But yeah, it's such a cute game, isn't it? And just so relaxing, honestly. I only got this game recently, so it's like a first playthrough, I guess. I mean, everyone's playthrough's the first playthrough. Like, but I had no experience with this until literally maybe a month ago. I need my coffee beans and my sunflowers. I don't know if I need them, but I know I don't have that many of them. And then I'll go plant 9 corn. Okay, I'll plant that. And we can sell the rest of these stone. But yeah, I literally haven't unlocked that much. So today, our aim is to unlock this biome because a lot of my quests need that biome. And then we're also going to go, if we have time, we're going to go get Wally. Or Wally. Because the quests, people need him. Majority of the quests. Some of the quests also need like Moana, and I really do want Moana because she's one of my favorites. But yeah. You're actually on your second playthrough, reset the character a few months ago. That's cool. That is cool. I mean the game's been out for a while, so it makes sense. But I think I'm not ready to complete the game yet. When this game came out, I was gonna get it because they said it was gonna be free to play, but then it wasn't free to play, so I couldn't get it for a long time. And then my boyfriend seemed to like he got like kind of promoted in a way, and he had money, so he gifted it to me. So I was very happy, and now I get to play it, and it's actually all I play in my free time other than Valorant. But Valorant's not that fun. It's stressful. It's only fun because I play with friends. But yeah, I do want to get Frosted Heights as well because I got because Elsa's in there, and I don't even have her yet, but I bought her other dream style because I wanted the OG for Frozen Elsa. BFW moment. Literally, he treats me so well, guys. He spoils me. Yeah. Okay. I think I've been in all the biomes I have now and like farmed as much as I can. I'm gonna go and just sell the last bits, and then we're gonna plant the corn. I'm just gonna sell these. They're like stragglers. I don't need it, please. Sell that. Okay, and then we're gonna plant the corn real quick.
See you later.
Hello. You're here just lurking for a bit? Oh, you work on site? That's absolutely fine. I don't know if she can hear you, but I appreciate you. It's good to see you. Okay, what was I doing? Oh, yeah. My memory, my brain, this doesn't work. Okay, I'm gonna do... I used to put my garden here, but now that I have my little house, like, hey, came with... I didn't mean to press that. Like, my capybara, like, lives out here. And then hey follows me around. That's what that clucking is. It's just him clucking every 2 seconds. So I'm gonna dig here. Ah, that is not where I wanted that to go. But it's fine. Oh, I love when you guys talk and chat with each other. No, I actually can. I'm so bad at digging and like, you know, for being a gamer, I'm quite bad at every game I play. That is the harsh reality of me. Oh, we have to skip this song because it's Coldplay, and Coldplay makes me sad. No! Guys, how am I doing this? How am I actually so bad at this? I just want to make my garden. Okay, now we can plant our 9 thorns.
Those night thorns are the worst, am I right?
Move! Scrooge, why are you stepping on my... Oh. Yay, okay. We'll do that. And now, we're gonna go get Sunlit whatever it's called. 7,000! Oh my god, okay. Right. Everybody ready? This is the highlight of the stream. This is what we were streaming for. To unlock a new biome. That I can't even say the name of, but I'm gonna unlock it because we need to. Okay? Everybody ready? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Right. Let's go. We still have like 21k Dreamlight after this. New biome! Woo! I've been wanting to unlock this biome for a long time, but I wanted to do it on stream. Oh, there's something happening. I'm scared. What is that? Oh! Oh! Oh, we're gonna get a new character, are we? Oh my gosh, hi. Okay. New biome. Scrooge, come with me, I'm scared. This place is a bit scary. Should we, like, clean up a bit, or should we go straight into the skull? Oh my god, there's a little campsite? This is so cute! But the bones are scaring me, so I don't know if I want to sit on the campsite. Oh, that's the Forgotten Lands. Yeah, we're not going in there yet. New biome, guys. Let's run around it first and have a look before we move on to anything. Okay, so there's lots of bones sticking out the ground. Don't know how that's happened, but yeah. So, this doesn't look like normal water to me. And yeah, again, another barrier that I cannot get past. I need to upgrade my shovel to get rid of the mushrooms, but I don't know if that's the same for the bones. Okay. And then we have this, I forgot what these are called, but you guys know what that is. Okay, I like it. The trees are very chunky. And, whoa, is this a cactus? Oh my god, I can make a pink stove. I can make a pink oven. Hold on, I pressed the wrong button. Hold on. Actually, maybe I did press the wrong button. Furniture? I don't know where to see that, but I can make a stove with that. And then There's different type of wood here. And a beautiful flower. What is this? What is that flower? Oh, I pressed the wrong button again. Pink brome. Oh, I'm not even going to try and say it. I don't know. I can't read. And then, are these cocoa beans? Yep. Okay. Nice. Oh, you're applying for jobs? Good luck. I hope it's going well. I know what it's like to be going through that. Okay, let's pick this up. Oh, it's from the same puzzle piece that we got earlier from Princess and the Frog. Don't give up hope, yes. Keep on going. Keep on going with your silly dreams. I'm gonna unlock the well because, just easy access. How much is it? Yay! We officially have unlocked this biome now that we have the fast travel here as well. A cactus with a orange flower and a pink flower. Are they classified as different things? They are. Oh, they're not called cactuses. Cacti. They're called house leeks. Oh, maybe then they're not. Maybe they don't look like cacti. Maybe they're not prickly. What did I just get? Soya seeds? Woo! Cotton? I can make fabric now. Just got rejected by Chipotle because I guess you don't have enough experience to make a burrito. That's so silly when they say stuff like that, like when you need a certain amount of years of experience. Because how are you meant to get that experience in the first place if none of the places take you with like no experience? You got rejected from Taco Bell? Not both of you applying for like burrito places, Mexican food places. Taco Bell slaps though. I can make a red mailbox. Oh, I found something. What is this? Another puzzle piece? Oh, it's the reading. From the old leader. It's so hot today. I've got to remember to keep away from the elephant graveyard. Oh, that's why they're massive bones, because they're elephants. That place gives me the creeps. It really does give me the creeps. They got beef with us. That's so funny. I'm starting to feel very hungry. I have giant whatsits. They keep me going. Right, he's level 9 now. That means we only need one more level and then we can do the continuation of that quest that I was doing with him. Does anybody like these? How am I going to eat these without getting, like... Yeah, you guys got this. Don't give up hope. Keep applying to the jobs. You'll find one. I'm just taking a snack break, guys. What's asada? Should I know what that is? Whenever I snack while gaming, I like to use a spoon or chopsticks. Chopsticks is such a shout. But I don't like going in my kitchen because I'm the flatmate. Or have you guys seen those like things you put here, like in between your, and then you do that, like, and then my hand looks weird when I'm doing that, but there's like a gripper, You can like grip out your chip, like your crisps, while you're gaming. So then you keep like your hand on your game, and then you like. Oh, 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 beef. Okay, it means beef in Spanish, right? Languages. I didn't do very well with languages when I was in school. Um, I was so happy that when I came to do my GCSEs that doing a language wasn't compulsory anymore, because I actually would have failed for no reason. Like, but now maybe it was a good idea to have it as compulsory, because now I don't know how to speak any other language. Oh, I thought to water it. Yes, oh my god, I saw those finger chopstick things before. Yeah, I think I need some finger chopsticks. Is that what they're called? My boyfriend told me about the finger chopsticks. They look so funny. They do look funny, but I feel like it would be so helpful. Because when you have like normal chopsticks, you're gonna have to like fully take off your hand and like get it in your hand. But if you have the finger chopsticks, they'll be on your finger all the time while you're playing, and then you can just like get your snack like whenever. Oh my gosh, that hummingbird! I can approach it. What do they want? Maybe a flower? Oh my god, it is a flower! He likes me! Hi! Oh my god! Feed the sunbirds? Oh, they're sunbirds, but they look like hummingbirds. Are we friends now? Are you gonna follow me, or are you gonna fly off? I can't believe I guessed it right, that's what you have to give them. It makes sense, I guess they like sweet things. Imagine showing a person from 100 years ago finger chopsticks. They would be so confused. The way technology has advanced, though, is crazy. Ah! I keep thinking I need to water those because they look like they're dying, but maybe because this is like a desert.
Es un hermoso día. So sunny.
I love how when I first went in the biome, there was no other characters in here. And now, suddenly, I'm seeing Mickey, I'm seeing Mirabelle. Everyone's coming into the new biome to see what it's all about. Oh, I've been harvesting vanilla. Oh, that's pretty cool. And there's now portals that connect. Oh yeah, I kept seeing that on my Instagram. Very, very cool, but also like a bit crazy. What, next thing you know, you can walk through them and suddenly you're in a different country. That'd be actually crazy. Okay, let's buy Goofy's stall as well, because then I can easily sell stuff and buy stuff. Okay, so we get vanilla and cotton in this store. That's pretty cool. More things for me to think about. The thing about this game as well is there's just so many things. Like, you can craft your own things and put it into the valley. But I can't keep up with, like, ow. I can't keep up with, like, what is needed for what to then craft stuff. That's why I'm thinking, like, if I, like, unlock all the biomes as my first, like, main goal, and then decorating to be, like, my second goal when I've got all the biomes, then I'll have less things to think about, because it actually hurts my brain to try and figure out all this stuff. And retain the knowledge. Oh, I have a gold nugget. That's cool. I have too much information to already retain from uni. It's just like... Okay. I'm guessing this is the elephant graveyard. It makes sense because it's like got two like tusks. Is that what they're called? Another note. Another little bit of writing from the old leader. Loneliest is sharp. It cuts me like glass in my finger. Damn. But it's much more awful than broken glass because I cannot see it or avoid it. That is so deep. Why is it so deep? Hold on. What the heck? Hi, Sleepy. Do you like the little auto message that sends when you enter? Sleepy Titan is my boyfriend. Please remember to respect my boundaries. Oh, we're taking a little ad break, guys. No way you have your own announcement. Yes, of course. Yeah. Thanks to Sydney's little tutorial, I was able to figure out. Oh, yeah, we're in an ad break. More snacks for me then. I'll eat my snacks while you guys are in the ads. Thanks for the shout out. He doesn't stream at the moment though. I don't know when the ads finish. Like my bot doesn't tell me. Oh my gosh, hi! Hi, She-Wolf. Oh, you're raiding me while I'm having like my little snack break. Hold on. Hold on. Welcome, raiders. Thank you for raiding me. Oh my gosh, thank you for choosing me. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim. It's nice to meet you all. We're just playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. We just unlocked a new biome, so we're just exploring it. How am I doing? I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you? How was your stream? What were you streaming? Oh my gosh, I've literally just been eating What's-Its and everyone's first impression of me is just gonna be me eating What's-Its. But yeah, we just unlocked this new biome, so we're gonna be going into the skull. Not that I want to go into the skull because it looks scary, but it's part of a quest. I think before I do go, I'm gonna empty my inventory at the shop and see what like items Goofy has here. She was good fun. I had left the DDV behind a few weeks ago, so have come back to grind. Oh, you also play DDV. Love to hear that. The grind does not stop, does it? Well, a break is good as well. Okay, these are some of the new things. Thank you for giving the shout out as well, Kat. I almost forgot, completely almost forgot. You're like pops to Kat for being a good moderator. I get really flustered whenever someone like joins, you know? Like I get really like oh. And then I forget things. What was I saying? Oh yeah. I just recently started playing DDV, so um everything's like very fresh. My valley's not that decorated. And we just unlocked this biome. Thank you for the follow. I'll oh, can I do it now? I can. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I've just unlocked this biome and now I have a lot of new quests that's just like streamed in and like I can do them now.
Hey there, pal.
See, like all these quests have become unlocked now. Wait, what? I thought more quests would be unlocked. Oh, I need. Oh. These ones I need. Wally. I need Wally. Oh, and this one I need. Frosted Heights and the Forgotten Land. Yeah. Okay, it's fine. We got some new friendship quests to do though, because I'm kind of avoiding the story quest for now. It's a good game. I played it since day one of release. It is. I wanted to play it when it first released, but like when they first announced it, they said it would be free to play, but then it wasn't free to play, so I couldn't afford it at the time it was released. So I'm very happy I can now, and I have it on my laptop and my Switch. Not my Switch, my boyfriend's Switch. But yeah, of course I follow back. Thank you so much, and I'll be sure to try and catch one of your streams as well. I'd love to see your valley. Okay, what was I doing? Sell. I want to keep some of these new stuff because I don't know, we might need it in the future. Okay, I can't actually sell that many things, but I want to empty my inventory, so I'm just gonna go back to here real quick. Okay. Oh, my corn has also finished growing. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention as well, guys, because I'm doing Astra's 30 content creator 30-day challenge. One of the days is to do a cosplay, and I've never done a cosplay before, so I don't have any like materials, I don't have any wigs, I don't have anything to do with like cosplaying. So today I bought 2 cosplay outfits ready for that, and also just in general to start maybe doing some cosplays because they look fun. Oh no, I don't have enough storage. But I'm not going to tell you what the cosplay is going to be yet, because I asked on Twitter and Instagram whether people wanted me to like get like you guys to help me, or if you wanted it to be a surprise, and majority voted for it to be a surprise, so it's gonna be a surprise. I think I have this chest. No, I don't have any space. I need to make another chest. My storage room is so ugly. I really want to like make it look nicer. I saw this really nice inspiration of like making it look like a greenhouse. Would love to have you there. I need to raid and run tonight as I have work in the morning. Oh, no worries. Go ahead. And I hope to see you again soon. And good luck with work tomorrow. Have a good rest. Bye. I really appreciate you. I'll definitely be around for the cosplay. I still have one in the pipeline for myself, but need to do it myself too. Oh, of course. Yes, I will probably, I don't know if I'm gonna stream with it, but I'll be making some videos with it. But you know, I might make a stream with it. One of them is from a game, so. But yeah, thank you for grading me and have a good rest of your night. Do I want this? I don't really want the colored ones. I want a big one, but it takes up iron and flowers, and I can't be bothered. Dare I say I can't be bothered? I want it to look pretty, but then I also can't be bothered to make it look pretty. Also, I store my fish in my bedroom. Like, not my actual bedroom, like my in-game bedroom. For clarification, in case anyone needs clarification on that. Oh, we can plant these soy seeds as well. Is vanilla kind of like for cooking? What about cotton? I like to try and like organize my storages into like things like this. Like flowers, but like there's not enough space for them. Oh, okay, it's fine. I'm dilly-dallying. I want to go and explore the cave. Let me just put all this new stuff that we got from the new biome in here, and this can be the Sunlit, whatever the name is, storage box. Where do I keep things? I don't know. Where do I keep seaweed? Is it in my bedroom? Oh yeah, I don't know if I showed you guys, but like all the newcomers, this is my bedroom. It's so messy. It's so mismatched. But I did try to keep like a purple kind of theme. And yeah. This is my storage and it has fish in it. Stinky. Okay, let's go and do that. Let's go plant and then I will go and explore the cave. Okay. And then we're gonna water them. Alright, let's go, Scrooge. You're coming with me. Wait, is he level 10 already? I forgot. Oh, he's not. He's level 9. That's fine. He's gonna come with me because I'm scared to go in this cave. Ew, it's Scar. Hello, can I talk?
There you are.
Well, if it isn't Kimmy, it's been far too long since you've been around. Oh, oh, oh! Why is he growling into me? Oh, I stepped too close to him. Like, well, that looks so bad. Why did he growl into me? That looks really. Do we know each other? You're so cute. Can I scratch behind your ear? Damn. Are we flirting? This is what happens when I don't eat. I just go a bit mad. Do we know each other? Or do we say he's cute? I don't think he's cute. He's mean. He's horrible. Do we know each other? Full of forgetting you were one of the most loyal assistant. One of his? What? Yeah, sure. I doubt it. Ah! I need to step back. He's too close. The river dried up? What happened to the river? Oh. I can only presume that something's blocking it, and the land has grown so parched. There's no prey. Well, I hope you're not preying on my villagers. On my valley livers. I don't know what they're called. Yeah, villagers. The power within the pillar of nurturing has died out. And now there's all sorts of pesky dark magic, dark power in the air. It's all my fault? I abandoned the valley? Did I? Oh, it's got a book next to it. Why did the pillar dry out? Because it's connected to the river that runs through the... Oh. Okay. Circle of life, of course. Circle. Oh, the other one was oval of existence. What the heck? Wasn't that also when you abandoned the village? None of this is my fault. I'm sorry I didn't mean to cause this. Hey, do you want my help or not? None of this is my fault. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it's my fault. That is such a lie. You're Lying. Look at your face. You're lying right through your teeth. Why should I help you? Because it's your place in the food chain. The valley was far better when I ruled it. You're not the king. You're not exactly making me want to help you. Do it to help the village. Okay. Why is he calling it a village, not valley? It's really confusing me. Okay, just tell me what I need to do. Find out what's blocking it. And okay. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Make friends? Are we friends? I don't want to be friends with you, bro. If I talk to him.
Greetings.
Okay, I can't do anything but the quest, so let's go. Enter the bit. Oh, guys, I can't read words. Vitally. Vitally mines? Oh, here. Is that sugarcane? I swear I just saw sugarcane. Ooh. This is very spooky, scary. Ooh, what is this? Can I mine it? It's giving me gold. It's giving me crystals. What is it? Oh, this is special. This is new. Okay, what's down here? Let's look at every corner of the mine. Can I go down here? Good job I cleared out my inventory. Now I can collect things. And good job that Scrooge is here with me. What is this? Is this what's blocking it? No. Okay. How do I get across? How do I do anything in this place? Huh? Like, oh. I want that chest. How do I get over? No. Okay, explore. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Oh, it's this. This is the way here. Is this blocking? Is this what's blocking it? Hello. I don't know where I'm going. Please. Zaz? Okay. Hello, Zaz. Oh my god, there's a chest. Wait, let me just get this last bit of... It's very cramped in here. Give me that chest. You're good? That's good to hear. I'm glad. Alright, we got some rubies and we got some things that we can craft stuff with. I also got an item thing, so let's open that. Ew. Ew, I wish I could sell clothing items, because what the freak is that? I would not wear those, I'm so sorry. Scrooge is in his favorite place. Is his favorite place the mines? Oh, because he's like getting some monies down here. Some gold. Do you play Disney Dreamlight Valley? Zaz? He was a minor? Oh, was he? That Scrooge? Scrooge McDuck? Damn. I didn't even know that. And I took him with me to do this quest. There's another chest over there. I really don't know how I'm meant to get over. This is kind of scary. Like, imagine there was no, like, an invisible wall. You just fall into the thing. Earned most of his early millions from mining. That's crazy. You learn something new every day. Money! Let's go. I'm just hanging. I just brought him with me because I was trying to level him up. But, you know, I guess subconsciously, I knew a bit of the lore. But not really. Even though I say I love Disney, I don't know that much about the lore. I was a Disney princess girly. That I can tell you about. Maybe. Don't quiz me on it though, because I clam up and get shy. And no, I don't play this game. Just a big Disney fan. Oh well, that is great though. Do love a good Disney fan. I also love Disney, but I don't seem to know that much about it. It seems. For this game, yeah, this game's really nice, especially if you are a Disney fan. It's quite a good one. You just basically get to hang out with all your favorite Disney characters, and it's just a lot of fun. Wait, I figured out it. I found my way around, guys, to get the chest I was looking at. I know a lot about Donald Duck and his family. I feel like I don't know that much, but I wish I did know, and I want to know more. Because, like, I didn't even know that there was a Scrooge McDuck. I didn't even know that until I played the game. Obviously I knew, like, Mickey and Goofy and Donald and Minnie and Daisy from, like, watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. But, yeah, I didn't know much about his, Donald's family or anything. This place is so cool, this little place, this, mine. You can tell me about Scrooge? Do they have a big family then? Like the Duck family? Donald Duck, Scrooge McDuck. And is he called Scrooge McDuck because of the Christmas Carol? Imagine I came in here unprepared without, like, any storage space or anything. I'd be very sad. A chest! Oh! Scrooge is Donald's maternal uncle, and yes, he was named after the dude from Christmas Carol. Oh, that's cool. So, like, is he just, like, grumpy then when it's, like, Christmas? Or is it because he owns the like, I don't know, like, he's a businessman? Any particular reason why they did name him after Scrooge in the Christmas Carol? Also, Daisy calls Scrooge Uncle Scrooge as well. Is this because she, like, you know how when you're, like, in a relationship, you just, like, call your boyfriend's family, like, uncle and auntie and mum and dad, that kind of thing? Or is there some sort of weird family overlap? He made his first appearance in the Christmas comic, and he was very stingy and rich. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh my gosh, the comics. I would love to, like, see, like, a real life copy of, like, some of the comic. But I don't think they do comics anymore, do they? I don't know. They're not related. Everyone calls him Uncle Scrooge. Oh, is it? Okay. I was gonna say, because I would be a bit dodgy otherwise. What did I just get? Dried ginger and crackling candy? Oh my god! So is that like popping candy, basically? Why do they call it crackling? And I also got root beer recipe. Oh my gosh, I can learn how to make root beer. I haven't had root beer in ages. Like, when I was like in the Philippines, over 10 years ago. They do make comics in your country. What just happened? Did I do something? Oh, what country is that, may I ask? I'm back at the beginning. Did I find what was blocking it? How do I get across? Scrooge is insanely rich. Tell me the name of any other rich fictional character and I will compare them. I don't really know any other rich character. And Finland? That's so cool that they have comics there. Did I find the thing? I'm very confused about this quest. I don't think I did find it. Okay. Let's go back in there. I swear I searched around the hot. I'm confused. Did I just miss this? I just missed this earlier. What is this? Read. Well, every movie? The only one that's coming in my head is from Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know, Uncle Ian? Don't know if you know that movie. If the water is blocked, please read. These night ones are getting worse and worse, but don't worry, I know how to stop them. Oh, this is why I got the root beer recipe, because I need to make it. If we can make a hole and use some of those candies, get rid of it. Why, I bet you could get rid of it. Okay, ingredients in the chest at the camp. Put it all together in the barrel before the forgetting gets me too. Oh, this barrel. How do I... I left all the ingredients in the put it all together in this barrel. Do I have it in my inventory? Oh, I don't have root beer. I don't remember that, but I do know Scrooge is richer. So ultimately, Scrooge is just richer than majority of characters. It makes sense. He always like gets my money whenever I go to his store because he always does really cool things in his store. Okay, it says I need to go and talk to Merlin, so he's over here. Okay. Where are you, Merlin? Scrooge is the richest fictional character ever and has more money than any other, plus all the real people combined. Now, can I have some of that money, please, Scrooge?
What a magical mess.
Yeah, so we found Scar in the what was it? The elephant graveyard. Scar is just as treacherous as Ursula. So I know that Merlin does not like Ursula. When I was hanging out with Ursula, because I quite like Ursula when she's in Vanessa's form. She's quite pretty. Merlin's just bitches about all the people in the valley, honestly. He refuses to learn my name and insists on referring to me as a windbag with pointy blue hat, head feather, and unkept white mane. Lol. He pays his nephew 30 cents per hour for hard work. I don't think he'll give you... Oh, that is... Yeah, he does seem a bit of a... Like, well, yeah, stingy, like the actual Scrooge. And, like, he does business with Goofy in this game and doesn't really give much to Goofy. Oh my gosh, hi! Welcome in! How's it going? It's going good. It's good to see you. I think... Did I... Wait, let me double check. Let me double check that. Oh yes, I am right. I think I found you on Twitter. I also don't want to butcher your name. Site. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I don't know. I'm such a bad streamer. I can't even pronounce people's names. But yeah, I think I found you on Twitter, right? That's kind of funny though. I don't want to laugh. I don't want to laugh at Merlin. Let's just say it's rude. He'll probably hit Goofy with dog treats since Goofy isn't the smartest. Yeah, that is true. Glad I could catch a stream. How's your day been? Going been? Yeah, okay. Thank you for giving the shout out, Cap. How's it been going? It's been going good. We just I don't know if you know this game, but there's like a whole map that we have to unlock, and we just unlocked a new biome, so I'm the exact same. We're trying to pronounce all sorts of names. I hate it all. Yeah, I don't like when people talk. I know that they probably want me to like acknowledge their names, but then I don't want to butcher their name. And because Goofy's a human dog, that is true. Oh, thank you for the follow as well, Daz.
Excellent. But
Okay, so much dialogue. I'm not gonna read it all because when I try and read stuff, I just jumble my words. So, but we're basically talking about what we found, and he's gonna tell us how to make root beer. I'm thinking. Yeah, I just saw your post that you were live on Twitter, so I thought I'd come and check. Oh, thank you for the follow as well. And yes, yeah, I feel like I post so much on Twitter that my posts just get like lost in the feed, but I'm glad you saw it. And it's good to see you here. We made it out of Twitter. I think I followed you already, did I? No, not yet. Okay, I'll drop you a little follow as well. Okay, I need to prepare extra fizzy root beer at a cooking station using dried ginger, vanilla, sugar cane. Okay, let's go back home. I have a cooking station, aka a stove. Whoa, how did Merlin get here so fast? What the heck? He went the short way. My goodness. Okay. Wait, I forgot already what it said. Dried ginger, vanilla, and sugar cane. I teach the wolf how to meditate. Now he's a werewolf. Oh, oh my god. I love that. I did not expect that. You just jumped in so like casually. I was like, oh, information. And then it just and of course, no worries. Okay. How do I pronounce your name? Extasite. Extasite? Am I saying that right? That rhymed. Okay, sugarcane, vanilla, dried ginger. I keep forgetting. So we need one dried ginger. Oh! Oops. One dried ginger. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. I don't have sugarcane. Let me just... Wait, do I have sugarcane? Extasite. Okay. Okay, I got it. I got it. Okay. Ha! Yay! Okay, do I have sugar cane? No. Okay, I forgot to harvest that when I saw it. Luckily, we got the fast travel, even though it is next to my house. Gar has come out of his cave now. Look at him. How's he going? Oh, he's having a lie down. That's so cool. He fully just lies down randomly. He's peckish. Don't eat me, please. Some people call me Extra, though for ease, which is also fine. Okay, Extra. Okay, can I harvest this sugarcane? What? Oh wait, I know where to get I know where to get sugarcane already. Let me just double check though, because I am not amazing at remembering things. Sugarcane in Dazzle Beach. It's like that time when I encountered a bear and I suddenly played dad instead of dead. Now he can bike without training wheels. Okay, cat, take your time. That's crazy. These jokes are crazy. These hilarious. Okay, do I want to plant sugarcane? Oh yeah, I do want to plant sugarcane. That's so much cheaper. Let's just buy one. But how long is it gonna take to grow? I hope it doesn't take ages because I want to unblock the thing ASAP. Because it's getting late here, guys. It's getting late. Okay, luckily we have one spot. This is all perfectly planned. How long is this gonna take? I don't know. But in the meantime, let's go to the boutique because I forgot I had that. And let me show you guys it. So in the new update with Daisy, for some reason my music's got really loud as well. Hold on. Skipping it because that was, yeah. My obese parrot passed away, a huge weight off my shoulders. Oh my god. That one's a bit, like, bittersweet, a bit sad, but funny.
Looks like a beach day to me.
A cultural piece on the villagers and informed the art about history. Maybe the danger of nightfall. Because people need to know to avoid it, yeah. Level 5! Look how cute her, like, items are, by the way, in her friendship level. Like, look at this vanity. That is gorgeous. And her bow, I have this bow already. And then her dress is so cute. But I don't think I can do the challenge. Oh, I can. Masks, beds, the Little Mermaid kitchen, and Wonder. I don't have Little's pet shop. Little's pet shop? Little's Mermaid. Do you hear about Captain Hook passing away? I don't think so. I don't. Oh, I do have some. Oh, I do. Hello. Good job. I like the Little Mermaid, Little's Mermaid, because the Little Mermaid. I don't know what I'm saying. Is that a Stitch hat? Yes, it is. Hold on. Let me just. I need a bed, but I don't have a Little Mermaid bed. Little Mermaid bed. Bag. I have all these items, but not a bed. Can I put this bed here? Yes, that counts. Put random stuff here now. It was so tragic. He wiped with the wrong hand. god, no. That's that one. Oh my god. So cute. Yeah, look how cute. The outfit's slaying. I have a Stitch like case for my AirPods. So cute, right? I was very happy when I unlocked him. Oh, I'm gonna have to put a mask on her. I don't have any masks. No, so I can't do the challenge. That's so sad.
Looks like a beach day to me. Goodbye.
I mean, it took me a while to get that one. It's because I literally grinded Stitch. Like whenever I get a new character, I always like level them up. I just spend so much time doing that instead of like the story quests. You have a Totoro case? Oh, that is cute. Okay, guys, we're having a quick ad break. Make sure to go get some food, water, and toilet in the ad break. I won't do anything exciting. See you on the other side. I met this genie once who gave me one wish, so I said I just want to be happy. Damn, that is deep, but I felt that. Okay. Let's see if okay, our sugarcane's not. Okay. Ad break's still going. Now I live in a cottage with 6 walls and work in a mine. Oh my god! That one's so good, Saz. I thought it was a deep one, but that's so funny, and I love how it's Disney related. I don't know if you can hear me because the ads. Let me know if you can hear me, Zaz. I might just need to go buy the sugarcane at this point because it's getting late and I need to wrap up in a bit. You're back? Okay. Welcome back. Welcome to the other side of the ads. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong store, guys. I'm in the wrong store. I've decided that... Okay, let me just double check. I don't know how long sugarcane takes to... Yeah, it's taking a while. Oh, you don't have... sometimes you don't, like, always get the ads. I've noticed that. It's like, some people do get it and some people don't. I think maybe because you're new. I don't know. I don't know how it works, guys. Anyways, we're gonna have to drop 29 coins on this sugarcane because... Yeah. Bye. Okay, bye. Okay. I haven't got any Twitch ads in months. I guess you're just a chosen one then. No Twitch ads with no sub. That's hacking the system. Right, we want this and we want vanilla. Ah! I dropped it. And then we want the sugarcane. We got root beer. Let's go. Right, and then put the extra fizzy root beer and the crackling candies in the barrel. So let's go back to the mine and unblock the river. We're gonna do it. You're the most powerful being in this platform. I mean, if you haven't had ads in months, then maybe you are. Absolutely hack the system there. But like, not literally. Okay, let's cross back over here. Oh my gosh, hi, respectfully. Hi. It's good to see so many of you guys that I've like recently met on like other socials. It's really good to see you guys. Not sure if this is weird, but I'm watching a live sometime. When I'm watching a live sometimes, any thought gets deep, and I'm like, oh my god, am I watching someone that is somewhere else? in the world playing a game and chatting. Oh, I get it. Yeah. It's crazy to think about. Like, this is happening right now, and you guys are like somewhere else in the world, and you chose to put me on your screen. That's crazy. How am I doing? I'm doing great. How are you doing? It's so good to see you. You're also the founder of Warsaw, but you retired from that? A weird side of Twitch? You used to look for weird streams and rate them? That sounds like fun. Oh, pushing positivity. You're still here. You can't sleep. What time is it for you, if you don't mind me asking? For me, it's 11:15. Jeez, that scared me. Um, if you're telling me that to get rid of Nightthorn, you just need root beer and popping candy, are you kidding? That's so funny. Hey, gotta return back outside and see if it's... You saw some stuff? Oh. Got onto the weird side of TikTok. I mean, weird side of Twitch, for sure. 11:15. Oh, you're in England as well? Okay, that's fair. Trauma made you retire? Oh gosh. Bro got PTSD from Twitch. We did it! Oh. I'm scared. Wait, are we seeing the Forgotten already? Are we seeing the Forgotten? I don't want to... Do we go in the portal now? But it's too hot for you? Yeah, it's very hot. Wait, what's the temperature? It's like 14 degrees, but it was like 20 plus over the last few days, hasn't it been? Very hot. But I can't have the windows open because there's moths and they keep coming inside. But I just saw the Forgotten for the first time! Are we going in here? I know I said I was going to end the stream soon, but like, I'm intrigued. Should we do it? Let's stay on for like another like 20 minutes. I'm gonna chicken from Moana. Yeah, that's my pet. Where am I? Was 24 earlier? That's crazy. Wait, where am I? I don't think I want to hear. I don't want to hear. And I also don't want you to end up being banned by saying something that might be... I think I can imagine what they were like. Can I not go past here? I can't go past. Okay, so we haven't actually met the Forgotten yet. But I'm in this weird portal place and there's like a whole castle over there. Is this like the valley, but like dark and scary? It's not like that. Oh, okay. Just weird, okay. I was gonna be worried for a second. But yeah, oh sorry, this is Hey, yeah, from Moana. So cute, right? He was in the store the other day and I bought him. The shop is still the same right now, okay. Could be behind the Disney castle. Yeah, it looked like it was like a parallel universe. And then that castle in the other, like in the portal, it looked like that castle right there, but like dark. Am I making words? Like one was this weird sock puppet. I just screamed. Did it have viewers? Do those like type of things actually like have viewers? I mean, I guess there's a following for any type of thing you can think of, to be fair. That's still one of the normal ones. Yeah, I guess having a Muppet is quite normal. The Forgotten looks just like me. I left the valley. Oh yeah, I forget. I forgot. I am the ruler. You kind of catch onto that part straight away when you start the game. That you know, you were the previous ruler of the valley. I spent to myself, Merlin, is this all my fault?
Now, see here.
Did I cause the forgetting? The Okay. Too much reading. It was just a sock puppet that reminded me of what would happen if you mix Elmo and Cookie Monster. Oh my god. Oh, the Orb of Nurturing. Okay. Was the Forgotten trying to help me then?
Yes, indeed. Outstanding.
There are crystals that grow there. When you combine them with magical ingredients, bring to life the flora around the village. Okay. They get some of the crystals from the mines. Use them to create a miracle growth elixir. Okay. Do I have the... Oh, okay. Oh look, now my sugar cane has grown. That's funny. My personal favorite was a certain Romanian guy because he was funny. Oh, that is sweet though. A bit offensive, but maybe in one way, but funny. Oh, I guess he had that kind of humor, huh? But anywho, we're probably gonna end the stream here. I am getting tired and it's getting late here, but thank you so much for today. I really wanted to unlock the new biome with you guys, so I was very happy, and now I can do some of the quests next time and also like in my own time. But thank you everyone who joined, and thank you Pinky L and She-Wolf for the raid. I really appreciate both of you, and thank you everyone who followed today and just been chatting to me and keeping me company. I've really been having a good time. Oh, he wasn't racist or anything? That's good, that's good. Nice to catch you, Seatbelt. Thank you. I hope to see you again soon. Right, so actually, before I forget, I always frigging forget to do this. Can we guys go raid someone, please? Will you guys stay with me and raid someone with me? Can we go raid Sydney? She's still live right now. Let's put like a cute little message if we can. Let's do... I need to set these up as well. Like proper like raid messages when we go raid people. So let's do like some name raid exclamation. Because I don't know if everyone has the emojis. I forgot what's like follow emojis and what's not follow emojis. Let's just do this. Okay. I'm trying to figure this out. And then we'll go raid her. She is one of my friends, my streamer friends, I guess you could say. And she has helped me with a lot of things, and is just amazing, and she's currently playing Palea. I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to word, guys. But yeah, let's copy and paste this to the chat and go and give her some love, please. If you do need to raid and run, that's completely fine, but do give her a chance. She is amazing and so entertaining. Yeah, okay, that's all, guys. Let's get going and do the raid. I have enjoyed this time with you all and I love you all, so I'll see you in the next one.